Hi, everybody. Welcome to Berry Aftercare. It is a cold and yucky day out, so I have my fireplace going, trying to stay warm. Hope wherever you are doing the same. So, we talked earlier this week, I guess it was, about the relationship with food. And I'm going to continue that discussion today and also into next week because developing a healthy relationship with food is going to change your life in a lot of ways. And I'm going to try to explain to you the connection between the relationship with food, the relationship with yourself, and the relationship with other people, and how those things all go hand in hand. And it doesn't matter where you start in that process. It's kind of like you hear therapists, not just therapists, but mostly therapists talk about the relationship between your thoughts and your feelings and your behavior. So if you're having negative thoughts, for example, you get on the scale and you're discouraged by what you see and you're starting with negative self-talk like, oh God, I don't know why I keep putting forth the effort or why bother or I'm just never going to get this or any of that kind of thing. So those are your thoughts. Then you feel discouraged, you feel frustrated, you feel disheartened, whatever you feel when that happens. And then you go out to the world, whether it's your family that you just weighed yourself, it's morning, you go out to your family and they greet you and you're not all that enthusiastic and they can tell something's wrong, or you go right to your job and people are like, hey, how you doing? And you're just kind of to yourself and you're grumpy because you're focused on that scale and how it didn't behave the way you wanted it to and how you're frustrated. So you did an action, you weighed yourself, you didn't like the results, so the thoughts were negative, then you felt bad, and then your behavior is bad. So you can kind of see how all three of those things are related. So let's say you decide maybe weighing myself isn't a very good idea. It puts me in a grumpy mood too often. So you don't weigh yourself. You wake up in the morning, you're feeling more pleasant, and then you treat other people more pleasantly. Or let's say you get on the scale, you don't like what it says, but instead of going to that negative place of I'm such a loser or why do I bother or this will never work, you can change the thought. So you can intervene at the level of your thoughts and say, you know, I'm not real happy about that, but I do know that I'm following through with what the dietitian suggested, with what the surgeon said to do. And so I know that eventually I'll get the results that I'm working for. So now you're less frustrated, less annoyed, not beating up on yourself, and your behavior is going to be more appropriate or kinder or more loving or less self focused with other people. So it's easy to see how our thoughts can affect our feelings and can affect our behavior. So if we change our thoughts to be more positive, it improves our relationship with ourselves, clearly. Because if you think, oh, I'm such a loser, or I'll never get this, or why do I bother, or God, what an idiot, the things we say to ourselves, that does not make for a healthy relationship with self. So our thoughts absolutely affect our relationship with self. They also affect our relationship with other people because when I'm down on myself, when I'm grumpy, when I'm, all focused on how I'm disappointed in myself or thinking bad things about myself, I'm not my best with other people. So our thoughts affect our relationship with ourselves. Our behavior and our relationship with ourselves affect our relationships with other people. That's no different than our relationship with food. So if you get on the scale, you don't like what you see, and your thoughts are, oh my God, you go down that negative rabbit hole, you go down that really beaten up on yourself kind of path. A lot of people eat in response to emotions, right? Because we know that food makes us feel better, maybe just for a minute. So we turn to what we use when we feel bad, which is food. And then what happens? We feel worse. We say worse things to ourselves. Why did I do that? I'm just so guilty. I feel so bad. I'm so ashamed. And all that ick arises. So that interaction we just had with food results in our feeling worse about ourselves. That has negatively affected our relationship with ourselves. What happens when we're beating on ourselves? We're feeling bad about ourselves. We're saying bad things to ourselves. How does that affect our relationship with other people? In a negative way. Now, this is the thing a lot of people struggle with because they don't really think that their issues with food or their relationship with food or even their weight for that matter, they don't think it impacts the people in our lives, but it absolutely does. Because anytime you are obsessed with what you ate or didn't eat or what you're going to eat or not eat, when you're glued to the TV shows, watching the Food Network, you're not available for other people. You are not fully present in your relationships with other people. So, our relationship with food absolutely affects the relationship we have with ourselves and with other people. So, we really want to work on developing a better relationship with food. So, when we eat better, when we eat healthier, when we eat things that nourish our body and we can feel good about what we improve our relationship with ourselves because we're not beating up on ourselves. We're not shaming ourselves. We're not feeling guilty. We're grateful. We're thanking ourselves for engaging in a healthy meal that nourishes our body, that makes us stronger, that makes us healthier. When we feel better about ourselves and what we're doing to our bodies, we're more pleasant when we're around other people. To me, it's real clear. I'm not sure where you're at with this whole thing, but today I wanted to read you 2 letters that I asked people to write to food. And I ask everybody to do this, and I would really, really encourage you to do this. And I spoke about this on my talk on Monday. Writing a letter to food can really give you a lot of great information about maybe what food represents in your life, maybe more than just what you put into your body. There are a lot of hints that I've gotten from people as I listen to their letters to food that tell me about relationships with other people, that tell me about relationships with themselves, that tell me a lot about what's this eating about? Is it about revenge? Is it about a get even? Is it about a silent F you? Is it about, going against the grain? Is it a way to rebel? Is it pure comfort? Is it strictly a learned behavior? But I can learn a lot when I have patients read me their letter to food. And I'm guessing you can learn about yourself if you write this letter to food and maybe process it with someone who knows you really well, a friend, a therapist, a mentor, a dietitian. Well, maybe not a dietitian. I don't know how well versed they are in these kinds of things, but maybe so. I don't know. Just ask somebody. I'm going to read you this letter. I want you to tell me what you hear. So, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to read 2 letters with you that were written by actual patients. I'm not going to tell you anything about them. I'll maybe tell you a little bit about them, but you'll never know who they are because it could be anybody. All right. So, and these were years and years and years ago, but I really liked these 2 letters. And I recently had a patient write a letter to food, and we are processing the letter over the course of a couple of sessions because it was so jam packed with awareness. So I'm going to get that letter from her too, or I'm going to ask her permission to get that letter, and I'm going to see if I can share that. Of course, I'll share nothing about the person, but I want you to know, I want you to listen to these 2 letters and tell me what you've heard. And after I read it, I'm going to give you a little context about this first person's life. This is a woman. I don't even remember how old she was, but 30s, 40s, 50s. I don't even remember. But I'm going to read you this letter. It says, "Dear Food, at times you've seemed like my friend. You've comforted me and brought me joy. You and I have spent a lot of time together. However, I think I love you much more than you love me. I actually obsess about you. I think about you all the time. You, on the other hand, while you do comfort me and bring me joy, you also provide me with unwanted pounds, cholesterol, high blood sugar, and overall bad health. So, what's a girl to do? I need to find something to replace you. It's going to be hard, I'm sure. Nevertheless, it must be done. I doubt that you'll care at all. After all, you're pretty fickle. You'll take up with anyone who has an appetite or suffers from down in the dumps blues. I'm sure that they'll love you as did I. Well, maybe not as much as me, but you'll put them under your spell before too long. They'll think that you're a wonderful part of their life. This will continue for years until it's too late. The pounds will be there and will remain very difficult to shed. It's so hard to say goodbye to someone that has been such a huge part of my life for over 50 years. Well, I guess that tells you how old she was. I wish we could just go to divorce court. I would let you have all of the assets. I wouldn't put up a fight. The pounds could be given to someone else without any regret from me. I'm sure that I'll miss you. It's going to be hard, more difficult than anything I've ever done in my life. However, as the song says, I will survive. My life without you will be fulfilling. I have to make it that way with other friends and lovers. So, goodbye, food. Please leave without a fuss. I won't change my mind. Your former lover and best friend. So that was her letter to food because I encourage people write a letter to food as though it were a person in your life. Now, let me tell you a few things about this person, and then you will really understand the connection between writing this letter to food and how it overlays other issues in your life. This woman had been in an abusive relationship for a long time. So I took her letter, knowing this about her, having had worked with her, and I changed a very few words. And I want you to listen to this letter now when I substitute abusive boyfriend. She wrote the first letter to food. I'm replacing food with abusive boyfriend. So listen to it in this regard. It's fascinating. Dear abusive boyfriend, at times you've seemed like my friend. You've comforted me and brought me joy. You and I have spent a lot of time together. However, I think I love you much more than you love me. I actually obsess about you. I think about you all the time. You, on the other hand, while you do comfort me and bring me joy, also provide me with unwanted tears, anger, frustration, and doubt about us and about myself. So, what's a girl to do? I need to find someone healthy to replace you. It will be hard, I'm sure. Nonetheless, it must be done. I doubt that you'll care at all. After all, you're pretty fickle. You'll take up with anyone who has an appetite or suffers from down in the dumps blues. I'm sure that they'll love you as did I. Well, maybe not as much as me, but you'll put them under your spell before too long. They'll think that you're a wonderful part of their life. This will continue for years until it's too late. The memories will be there and will remain very difficult to shed. It's so hard to say goodbye to someone that has been such a huge part of my life. I wish we could just go to divorce court. I'd let you have all of the assets. I wouldn't put up a fight. The pain could be given to someone else without any regard for me. I'm sure that I'll miss you. It's going to be hard, more difficult than anything I've ever done in my life. However, as the song says, I will survive. My life without you will be meaningful and fulfilling. I have to make it that way with other friends and lovers. So goodbye, abusive boyfriend. Please leave without a fuss. I won't change my mind. Your former lover and best friend. Do you see the connection there? I changed maybe a dozen words in that letter from Dear Food to Dear Abusive Boyfriend. That letter she wrote to Food is so similar to a letter that anybody could write to a partner who's in an abusive relationship or an unhealthy relationship. And we all know stories of people who stay in those kinds of relationships for a long time, right? You may have been in one. I was in one in college. Usually we stay in those kinds of things for way too long. The victim of the story, this woman or myself in my situation, whether male or female, they're going to claim to stay in that unhealthy relationship because they love the abuser. Trust me, that is not love. That is dependence. They're dependent upon that person for whatever psychological reasons. Maybe they don't feel capable of taking care of themselves. Maybe they grew up watching an unhealthy relationship, and so that's what they know about the relationships between partners. Maybe maybe it gives them a false sense of security because they're afraid to be alone. So many people are really dependent upon food in an unhealthy way because it too gives them a temporary sense of feeling better. Now, of course, not everybody's letter to food is going to sound like this, like a love letter, but everybody who's had issues with food has some emotional relationship with food. So write that letter to food. See what you can find out about yourself and that relationship with food. Find out, what purposes do you serve in my life? What is it about me that clings to you in this way? So if you need to, maybe take it to a therapist or talk to your friend about it, because I'm sure you're going to learn some things about yourself and your relationship with food, about yourself and your relationship with yourself, and about relationships with other people. So I would really encourage you to do that. Now I'm going to read another letter that a patient wrote to food. This one's very practical, very take charge. I'm doing this thing, so listen up. Dear Food, I don't really know how to say goodbye to you. The truth is, I don't have a clue. I need you to live, but I also need you less to really live, to live fully, because you're killing me. I really love you and have depended on you for comfort for as long as I can remember. I have, however, used you for comfort and for so many of the wrong reasons. I know it's time for me to let go of you and the hold you have over me and my life. I can't live my life anymore based on what the next meal is going to be or which sweet treat I get to have next. I have to start using you for nourishment and health reasons instead of using you as my own personal drug of choice. The worst thing about you is that I literally do need you to live. So I can't give you up completely. But I can learn how to set limits with you. And I can learn to impose boundaries so that we can learn to be friends instead of enemies. Because frankly, you are my best friend and you are my worst enemy. I hate the way our relationship has been and I want to change it. I need to make it better so that we can live out the rest of our lives together in harmony. It's going to be rough And I'm not sure how to go about this yet, but I'm learning and I'm finally ready to say goodbye. Thanks for being there, but thanks even more for leaving. Sincerely, me. Great letter, right? Acknowledging the hold food has had, acknowledging you're my best friend, you're my worst enemy, acknowledging I'm the one that's going to have to change this. Guarantee you, food ain't going to do it for you. It's not going to say, no, 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 you can't have me. Although I do recommend talking to food and maybe giving it a voice that says exactly that. But this letter is take charge, right? I'm going to do this. You're not helping me. You are killing me. I want to live. So it's awareness of the fact that this relationship has to change. It's acknowledgement that you're killing me. It's acceptance that I have to do this. It's accountability. I'm going to be the one to set the limits. I'm going to be the one to say no. It's about effort. I'm referring to the four aces here if you haven't caught that. The effort is about, I'm going to do this. I'm going to tell you no. I'm going to get the skills I need to set those boundaries with you. Commitment. This letter, I'm telling you now, it's going to be done because I matter. Self, the four aces, right here. So write your letter to food. See what you can find out about yourself. You know, I was thinking as I was reading this that what was said in here? Hmm. Oh, what I heard in this letter is that this person who wrote this does have a good self-esteem, right? They're like, they're like, I love you and I hate you. So the I love you part says to me, there are things I really like about myself, but I also hate that I give in to you. So I felt very positive about this because I know that there's a good sense of self and not a complete powerlessness in her attitude. So she was going to take charge. So I liked this, but I and you and others can hear a lot about your relationship with yourself as you read these letters to them. So play with it, see what you can learn about yourself. And we're going to spend next week also talking about this relationship with food. And just like I talked about how you can change your thoughts to change your feelings, to change your behavior. You know, you can start anywhere in this process, right? You can start by changing your relationship with yourself by really digging in and saying, I have power. I am not a slave to food. I am going to talk more kindly and with more assurance to myself. And by doing that, you're starting with the relationship with yourself. That carries over to food. I'm saying no to you because I'm in charge. You're not. That will change your relationship with food. Or you can change the relationship with food first and eat better, which is always more likely when a person is in the beginning of a diet program or in the beginning of your bariatric journey because you are at a place where you're like, I need to change this, or maybe I'll die, or I need to change this because I'll never get the results if I don't. And when you're involved with the program, you're typically more likely to be keeping up with what you're asked to do. So change the relationship with food and you're going to say, gosh, I really feel better. Gosh, I really like the way I feel as I'm losing this weight. Gosh, I feel better. I think I'll start treating my body in healthier ways in other ways. I'm going to go to the gym. You're more pleasant. People are happier to be around you, right? So as that relationship with food changes, your relationship with yourself changes and your relationship with other people changes. So it's true. You ask others around you, they'll tell you. If you're listening to the family and friends it's just started last month, but Dana Rosser wrote a whole book called Through Thick and Thin. Her husband, their family, their journey through her husband's struggle with the disease of obesity, his journey through weight loss surgery, how she felt, how he felt, how they felt as a couple, how it impacted their family. A really, really good read. But there's no doubt that your relationship with yourself and your relationship with others is affected by your relationship with food. So maybe take a look at this from a different perspective, a little bit more of an open mind, and write that letter to food. See what you can figure out. All right, next week, I will continue to talk about this. And as always, this is your health. This is your responsibility this day and every day. You guys have a good weekend. Make it a good weekend. Weekends are not for going crazy with food. Weekends are for improving your relationship with yourself, with food, and with other people. So enjoy it. Get outside if it's decent. Spend some time with people. Get that obsession away from food and keep that dang Food Network off. All right. Bye.